Water Park. Save the park.
Well, there's a lot going on. Actually, this is not in Hamilton County, but in Butler County, there has been a drive to save the former Kingswood Golf Course, and they put it on the ballot with 2,000 signatures. So that's setting a good example for us. Water is now being called Center Point Preserve by the township, which is encouraging. And what we're trying to do is get them to put their money where their mouth is and actually designate a third of the former water, which they have committed to, and make it official with the press and photo ops and all that. So that's the goal. There's a lot going on.
Good, good, go for it. Everything legal that we can help with, that would be very nice. We have people here who can sign their names. And that was good for Dr. Laura, right? We last week, 2 weeks ago, we finished or helped her finish her signatures for her to run for the congressional district #1. So we helped her go over the top. Just want you to know, I'm very proud of you guys.
And I appreciate it very much. I'd like to introduce somebody, if I may.
Okay. Get the mic.
The campaign is going very well. I am now at it full time. I'd like to introduce my campaign treasurer and acting campaign manager for the moment. She's up from Atlanta. That's where she does her work for me. I'd like to introduce Farrah Hawley.
There you go. We need a name tag, Farrah. Farrah?
Right there.
Like Farrah Fawcett.
Oh, you do have a thing. Good woman. Farrah.
This has been an interesting experience. The campaign started in March. It's rare that people say that I'm not talking about enough, but we can do this too. It's been a very interesting experience. The campaign started in March. Laura came up and said to me, "Guess what? You're my campaign manager and my campaign treasurer. Sign here." And I said, "Oh, okay." And it's been a real learning experience, especially for someone who's, should I admit this, a recovering Republican.
Good for you.
And one of the things that's interesting, converts are the most fervent people. I mean, you come and you're doing it because you believe, and I've got a retirement practice down in Atlanta, but I put that aside substantially for what we're doing here because this is important. Our nation has issues right now, and we're divided. And Laura and I have put together a campaign that's about being inclusive, being unifying, not being divisive, to understand weird concepts like negotiate, compromise, bipartisan, for the people, make things happen. And we want to bring that back. And that's what we're doing right now. Thank you so much.
There you go.
And I think Farrah is going to run for office if she continues to give talks like that.
There you go.
As a Democrat.
I have two things. There's a new activity starting tonight at 4:30, standing out for peace. We're going to stand at Liberty and Reading Road. There's a lot of traffic goes by there with signs for peace. But if you have other issues and you want to join us, do that every Tuesday, 4:30 to 6, Liberty and Reading Road. So hope you'll spread the word. Second, the Intercommunity Justice and Peace Center is having a dinner and honoring some local activists. Don Sherman, who's been working with immigrants for years. Bonnie Newmeyer, who's been helping poor people for years. And they're having a guest speaker, John Deere. And it's about launching a new nonviolent Cincinnati initiative. It's September 20th. I put flyers on the bar over there. September 20th at Seton High School. So I hope you'll join us
6
there.
p.m.
And there's flyers on the bar over there.
John, Ray Patch.
Hello. I contacted, happened to be Catholic, I contacted, or we have an archbishop in the area here, Schnorr, and I wrote to him. So, wait, I just want to read this one part of this because he sent this regarding since the Charlottesville thing. He sent this on August 16th to all these parishes. I'll just read you a little bit of it. I'll have to leave it here if you want to read it. But it says, "Let us unite ourselves in the spirit of hope offered by the clergy, people of faith, and all people of goodwill who peacefully defended their city and country, who stand against the evil racism, white supremacy, and neo-Nazism. We stand with our sisters and brothers united in the sacrifice of Jesus, which loves victory over every form of evil is assured. At Mass, let us offer a special prayer of gratitude for the brave souls who sought to protect us from the violent ideology displayed yesterday. Let us especially remember those who lost their lives. Let us join their witness and stand against every form of oppression."
Well said. Well said. Thank you, John. Other announcements?
If you are new and you want to join our email list, there are slips of paper that say organization on the tables, and just grab one of those and write it down. We'll collect those at the end, so we'll get it that way. And if you did make an announcement, if you could fill one of those out so we make sure we have the details correct, that would be awesome.
I think Stan wants the microphone.
Okay, I'm not really prepared to give a lot of detail about this. I thought someone else might.
A little closer.
I thought someone else might announce it, but some people may know that the library is attempting to sell one of the buildings that was recently constructed to a developer. And no thought has been given to serving people in the community with that space. And so there is going to be a meeting tonight at 6:30 at the library to discuss what's going on and what people can do about it. In addition to that, the library director just got a 17% raise, which is quite a hefty raise for somebody who makes over $200,000 a year.
Whoa.
So
Ouch.
this meeting, if anyone at all can attend at 6:30 p.m., I think it would be worth the time.
That's why they have to cut library staff, right? Because they increase their salary by that much.
Wow.
Turning into a corporation.
There we go. Stanley wants the mic.
Just as a matter of, so I'm on TV, okay. Just as a matter of, if anybody would like a copy of the movie, the Pelican Brief, I will make copies available here.
What is it?
Pelican Brief is about
It's a movie.
stacking the Supreme Court. Way back when. And if anybody would like copies of the meeting here, I will bring five or six copies down.
I wouldn't advertise that. You guys have a 17-year prison fine for that.
Well, they're not supposed to know where you get it from, okay? At least the movie.
Mom's the word.
Mom's the word, but I'll give you a copy of the movie. But if you want a copy of the meeting, of any of the meetings that we've had that I've done, I will make available hard copies on a DVD for you if you would like them. Thank you.
While we're talking copies of the video here, we have made the entire meeting available on YouTube. You need my name and go to YouTube, or go to Cincinnati Dems on Facebook, or go to my Facebook, or go to Stan's Facebook. I put some of them on Liz's Facebook. I'm trying to spread them out, but we also have free, copies of the meetings here on DVD, so feel free. Is this our speaker for the day?
This is an introduction.
No, maybe for a couple minutes. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Yeah.
Good. My name is DeVoe Sherman, and I have been doing political campaigning for about 5 years, since I was 18. I'm 24, UC graduate. I study political science and liberal arts. I run multiple political campaigns, and I'm an entrepreneur. So I run a tutoring and mentoring organization that mentors and tutors kids. We work with a lot of different clients here. Children's Hospital, Easter Seals, Urban League. So we're doing a lot of good work for our youth. But I had an event that's coming up. It's a, let me get it here. I want to take all you guys' time. It's a community forum, and it is from 6 to 8 on September the 20th at CAA. That's 1740 Langdon Farm Road, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45237. There's a couple different people that's running for city council: Mayor Fogey, Tamaya Denard, Michelle Dillingham, and Ozzie Davis. So they're having a debate September 20th, 6 to 8. And they're going to debate about inner city issues. So if you guys want to come to that, I do have more information. I'll have flyers next time I'm here. But this is my second time coming here. I love the energy here. I love it.
Thank
so
you,
I'm going to keep returning and coming back. Thank you all.
I remind all of you about our bar. We have the best bar in the city. It's a bar of information. We want you to belly up to our bar, informed about community events and things that are going on. And if you have things to advertise, please bring some information and put it on our bar, and we'll be happy to share it. Part of the point of our organization is to share with information within our community, and we're trying to do that. Did you have something going on there, Liz?
I was just seeing if our speaker had called. Nope. So I guess
Okay.
changing speakers.
We're changing speakers. How's that for going on the fly? And I want to commend Mike and Mike Shryock and Dick Bozian for making themselves available as possible substitutes, and now real substitutes, for our speaker for today, because she got held up at a conference. And, we're not paying our speakers, folks.
We give them lunch.
We do give them lunch. As they get started, I do want to mention that William Messer is collecting any petitions that you may have. And if
All right, I'll collect.
it may be new to him, but he's got his button, he's official. And if there's anybody here who wants to be trained in redistricting and getting trained to have signatures for a petition to have redistricting put on the ballot, I will do a training for you, even after this meeting. I've got my computer here, I'll do it for you today, even if it's just one of you.
Just a quickie, I probably told most of you about how when I had the sign in front of my house that said, "We don't care where you're from, we welcome you as our neighbor." It's in 3 different languages. Do we still have those here for people? On our wonderful bar?
Monica's out of town.
Oh, Monica's out of town, okay. Well, I urge you to get one, because I just found the little note that was left on my car, which I sort of paraphrased to you. But I thought I'd tell you, I came out of my house, my car was completely covered with 12 dozen white roses. And it's as though they fell from the sky. I just didn't know what was going on. And then I find this little card, and it says, "You are an amazing human being who is willing to welcome an outsider like me with open arms. You are an outstanding neighbor. I hope these flowers remind of peace in the world and in people's heart. Your foreign neighbor." Isn't that nice? So it really, really makes a difference just to let people know this. I don't know, maybe she was having a really hard time or a hard day or a hard week or a hard life, and this meant a great deal to her. So little outward manifestations, little outward expressions can make a big difference.
I'm looking at Liz and being reminded that what I should have done at the beginning of the meeting is restrooms are just outside the door and a little bit to the right. Just. We do have restrooms. Okay. So they're passing out their forms. And I'm going to hand over the mic. Now, I'm going to let them introduce themselves and what their expertise is. But Mike has to be the oldest doctor in the room. He's 98. Dick is, and he comes every week. And is that what keeps you young?
Wife kicks him out of the house. I'm going to go first. Mike Shryock. I'm a retired addictions counselor and social worker. This is Dr. Dick Bozian. And we've been doing smart recovery in Cincinnati. Dick started it 25 years ago. And it's an international thing. It's not 12-step. It's cognitive therapy instead of 12-step. And it's free. I'm going to put flyers up here on it. We also have a group of friends and family. So if you know someone who has a loved one who has addiction, they can go to our friends and family meeting and get support too. Addiction is a brain disease. It's not a moral problem. By the way, Bennett Cooper over here is an expert on this too, and he might chime in too. He's worked at CCHB for years with people. I met Dick in the early 70s. He was the first physician around here to treat addiction. I met him in the 70s. And then he brought Smart Recovery here. When I retired 10 years ago, I started doing Smart Recovery as a volunteer. I go to the VA. It's substance use disorder is the term. Not substance abuse, not addicts. We do not label people by their behaviors. We don't let them call themselves addicts. These are people who have an addicted brain. It's not all their fault. Some of it is their fault. It's a genetic thing, and people get addicted. It's horrible. And we do a lousy job of treatment in this country. Most of the programs are not long enough. It takes about a year for a person's brain to somewhat heal. Like the VA, they're there for 3 weeks, and then they're gone. And we wonder why the relapse rate is so high. Now, we have a beautiful model program in Cincinnati called First Step Home for women. And it works well because the women can stay there for years with their children. That's what we really need. We have a place, Prospect House in Price Hill, where people can stay for long term. And we have a place for veterans downtown where I volunteer too called Joseph House. But other than that, these programs are like putting Band-Aid on cancer. And what I'd like to see is that we probate people to a year-long program in a hospital, not a prison, because the addiction knocks out a person's ability to reason, and they are a danger to themselves. And if I were running the world, that's what we would do. You know, when they save someone's life because of heroin overdose, we just send them on their way instead of saying, okay, you're going to this treatment program for a year against your will because you're not thinking straight. If we really loved people, we would do that. But we don't want to pay for it, and we think it's a moral problem and all that stuff. So that really annoys me. So that's all I want to say right now, Dick. You're on. We'll take questions.
Yeah, I need to give you a kind of background. I need to give you a little tiny background on myself. I was a switch. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I taught at the university.
Give him your mic.
Yeah. I taught at the university, and all that I knew, and I was the head of the division of nutrition in the Department of Medicine. And the only thing I knew about addiction was the 12-step. I was involved with respect to liver disease and nutrition and so forth, but I knew nothing other than the 12-step. Until about 25 years ago, I began to realize that the 12-step program AA or NA works for 5 or 10% of people. The vast majority of individuals would not accept the principles of 12-step.
Where'd you get that data?
Pardon?
Where is that data?
The data
from?
is documented. Give me a chance to present and help. The data is well documented that only 5 to 10% of people are benefited by 12 steps. The other 90% are left to their own thing. 50% of people that have a problem with alcohol, drugs, or what have you, are able to cure themselves without any program. Not without their church, without their ministers, without the universities or the health programs and so forth, but the remainder are left with nothing. So that I learned about 25 years ago that their program, such as a cognitive behavioral program, had great benefit for individuals that had problems with drugs and what have you. And the approach to it is, in my handout, you see that all of these things that are listed on the front sheet of my handout are actually anything that gives pleasure, anything that avoids pain, fear, or anxiety can be addictive. This is what the sheet is telling you. Our brains are programmed for pleasure, to avoid pain, fear, and anxiety. And we have that in order to function effectively. If you had to, every morning, before you brush your teeth, if you had to brush your teeth, you wouldn't be able to function. You learn, you develop habits in order to function efficiently. So it is perfectly normal to have an addiction. What is not normal is the consequences of the addiction, and that's what we deal with. And as Mike has mentioned, that most of the programs that we have are ineffective for most individuals. Now, as I've mentioned, addiction is a normal behavior that has unfortunate consequences. It's a learned behavior. If an individual is not fed up with their existence during their use of addictive drugs, they don't have a chance to recover. They have to be fed up with the way that their life is going. So our basic program acts on the basis of motivation. Yeah, okay, very good. The individual has to be fed up with the way their life is going. Secondly, the individual has to learn to deal with urges. If you have an addiction, it's perfectly normal to have urges. And what our program does is help the individual deal with the urges. And they do that by avoiding situations, by calling on helpers, by having diverting activity away from the urge. It's perfectly normal for urges to learn how to divert. And we know also, the brain cannot maintain a negative. You can't say to yourself, I'm not going to drink. But you have to tell yourself, what are you going to do? You see, individuals learn to have mantras to avoid the urges that come along. The brain doesn't hold a negative. The third aspect of our program is the managing thoughts, feelings, and behavior. We think that we react to things, but actually we react on the basis of our perception of things. And give you several examples. For example, a young man going down the street stops in front of a jewelry store, sees a Rolex watch, he breaks the window and goes to jail. I go down the street, I stop in front of the jewelry store, I see the Rolex watch and I say, gee, I'd like to have that, but I don't have the money. So the Rolex watch did not cause the problem, it was the perception of that young man saying, I must have it right now. So the reality is that it wasn't the watch that caused the problem, it's what he told himself. Likewise, if you're in an elevator and you have somebody jabbing their cane into you, you're ready to turn around and beat him over the head. And when you get off the elevator and you find out that the cane that was beating into you was held by a blind man, so your anger disappears. You see, your perception was, that shouldn't happen to me. The reality was you were reacting on the basis of your perception of it. Lastly, and very importantly, we go by the principles. The individual has to ask themselves, is my behavior rational? And we use the 5 principles that were promoted by Maxie Maltzby. Number 1 is, what is a camera eye view of what I'm telling myself? What is the reality of what I'm telling myself? Number 2, is my behavior benefiting me from a long-term standpoint of my goals? I want to go to medical school. I keep on using drugs. Am I going to be able to go to medical school? Number 3, is the use of the drug and my behavior leading to conflict with those that are important to me? How much harm is being caused by behavior? And lastly, how much does my drug usage deal with how I want to feel from an emotional standpoint? We ask the individual to do this. And lastly, as Mike has mentioned, we do not go for individuals calling themselves alcoholics, felons, and addicts. We say that you need to have unconditional self-acceptance. You do not rate yourself with your behavior. If you're using a drug abnormally, you don't call yourself an alcoholic. Say, I'm a person that's using a drug, and it's not good for you. That is essentially the rebuttal question.
How well is that approach accepted at the federal level for dealing with people with these kind of issues?
Absolutely. The National Institutes of Drug Abuse. Yeah. The National Institutes of Drug Abuse, all of them. First of all, I'm glad that you asked that question. No single program works for everybody. Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous works for about 5 to 10% of people. The vast majority of individuals, as I mentioned, recover on their own, and the remaining ones will recover depending on the kinds of program. And the cognitive behavioral programs are at the leading edge as far as treatment of addiction is concerned.
Is there federal funding for this kind of thing?
Yes. Well, our programs are free, but there is federal funding, yes.
The federal prisons use smart recovery for their inmates.
Great Britain, the entire prison system in Great Britain. In Great Britain, the entire prison system uses the cognitive behavioral smart recovery program.
For the chemical dependencies, do they have to go through the detox before they can start into this program? Because when you said it was a learned behavior, there is some physical for certain things.
Very good question. In recovery, I say one of the major differences between programs like our cognitive behavioral and programs like AA and NA is that we encourage the use of medication to go through the withdrawal period. Actually, with AA and NA, they discourage it because they say it's a crutch. And we say that individuals may take weeks, sometimes it takes months to years to get over the effects. And during that period of time, many individuals need drugs. And it's quite an important part of their recovery process, right? Yes, John?
If you know somebody has an addiction, first question would be, how can you tell when they are not being, rational is the word. And then another one would be, how would you help that person?
Well, as I mentioned, John, if the individual is not fed up with the way that their life is going, that should be a motivating factor as far as their changing their behavior. And the other one is the things that I mentioned is, how is it affecting their lives with respect to conflict with others, the members of their family, for example, their children, their parents, their grandchildren, and so forth. How is it affecting them as far as providing harm to them, their liver function, and everything else that occurs with, particularly with alcohol, but it can occur with any of it. How is it affecting them from the standpoint? How does it affect them as to how they feel? Are they having the emotional kind of life that they should have and would like to have? All of these determine whether a behavior is rational or not rational. And it can mean that, if 2 or 3 of the things that I just mentioned are negatives, then that means it's a pretty irrational behavior. But if only one of them is abnormal, that may very well be compatible with their having a normal existence or life. Yeah.
one of the criteria is loss of control once drinking or use begins. I'm going to have 3 beers and I end up drinking 15. That shows that that's a sign of addiction. High tolerance. A 12-year-old kid who can drink a 12-pack and still walk has an addicted brain. That's not normal. One of the things that also annoys me is you have to wait till people want help. Well, we work on motivating people. And a lot of our treatment programs have failed because, oh, you're just not motivated yet. We could motivate people by helping them see what they really want for their lives. One of the things I ask folks to do is write a list of things you want to do before you die. And somebody might say, I want to go to Hawaii, or I want to have my own motorcycle repair shop. Well, what are the chances of that happening if you keep shooting heroin? And which would you rather have for your life? So people can be motivated. But I was trained, and I don't know about Ben, I was trained you can't help anybody until they want help. Well, I think that's crap. We can help motivate people. And a lot of the programs don't do that. If you're not motivated, we kick you out, go back out on the streets, suffer some more. Maybe you'll die, but maybe you'll come back. So I think that's another flaw. Ben, jump in here if you have anything you want to say.
Could I mention real quickly, I have somebody very close to me who went through recovery a year ago. She went through the Beckett Ridge program. They have like a addiction hospital out there. It was amazing. I mean, they even have family nights, so you go in and everybody talks about how their illness has impacted your life. The big thing that I learned is that this is something that is in your brain. It's not, what happens, this person was took a test when she first started and thinking that she was a social drinker more than anything. When she took the test, she figured out that in 7 years she would be dead if she didn't get off her addiction. It's just incredible how much I learned through that and how it impacts the brain and how they figure out your levels of addiction to what chemical or alcohol, whatever it is. I also want to mention real quickly sugar. It's really coming out in the news now how addictive sugar is. I've known this for years, but I don't stay away from it. I'm trying. But the high fructose corn syrup that they put in everything, it's just like, it's like putting heroin in. It's the same exact thing. It makes you want more. Catherine.
Testing. I've been working in addiction since 1971. VA Hospital Psych Service got my first, I guess it was a student internship there. So, and I don't understand. Louder. And I don't understand addiction and exactly how it works. What I do believe is that humans are extremely complicated, and there is no one explanation for how everybody gets addicted or how everybody does anything. It's like different explanations, I think, go for different individuals. Currently, a lot of the reading that I'm doing suggests a lot of environmental factors which make it more or less likely that a person will be addicted. For instance, certain early childhood conditions, lack of support, lack of love, lack of closeness. I read a book called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. This guy was a Jewish guy, was a baby in Germany during Third Reich, and he talked about the Jewish mothers were all tense, of course, and the kids feel that, not verbally, but they feel it. And those kinds of experiences mean you don't get the same kind of connection with the folks who love you. And that lack of connection leads to what he calls this hungry ghost mentality. You're always hungry for something, and you're more likely to be addicted to almost anything if, in fact, those experiences are there. There's other environmental experiences from the Vietnam War. Some of my reading suggests that as high as 50% of our soldiers were addicted when in the war, under the pressure of war, and with a lot of drugs around, a lot of heroin and opiates around. Coming back to the United States, getting out of that environment, most of the folks did not stay addicted. But those who had this hungry ghost were addicted, and those are the ones that needed the treatment. And so there is, currently I'm starting to believe that there are environmental factors both from early childhood and from current. I think our current culture creates more problems than we're able to solve. So I think that we need to take a look at socioeconomic issues, which create pressure for parents. Those parents under that kind of pressure are not as capable of connecting with their offspring, and I think they're more likely. I think there's no automatic with humans. It's a probabilities game. Folks are more or less likely to be addicted to something if those situations realize. So there's no automatic answer. And like I said, I'm still studying and I'm still trying to figure out how this stuff works. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
I have a question. You talked about not wanting to call people addicts as a negative, but you also said that you can be addicted to anything, and I think you said addiction can be quite a normal thing. The problem is how it manifests or how you act or don't act upon those addictions. So what I'm wondering is there a biological or evolutionary purpose to addiction that may actually, it may actually have a positive purpose?
As I said, anything that can give you pleasure, anything that can avoid fear, anxiety, can become addictive. Our brains are programmed for the purpose of survival. Addiction is a survival mechanism, as I mentioned. If you had to think every time to brush your teeth in the morning, it would be a disaster. You develop the habit to brush your teeth, and this has a very positive effect as far as your health is concerned. So that the development of habits is a normal procedure for survival and effective functioning.
So,
but it becomes abnormal when it's counterproductive with respect to your health, with respect to your relationship with others, with respect to the amount of harm, with respect to cholesterol, liver disease, and so forth. So the addiction becomes counterproductive. So the purpose of avoiding the terms alcoholic and addict and felon are because we state that these are denigrating terms. The individual is not an addict. He's a person who has a problem with alcohol. He's a person that has a problem with heroin. He's not an addict because it's self-denigrating. And we say that you accept yourself regardless of your behavior. You do not equate yourself. You do not equate your being with your behavior. So, because you can't change your being. And if you make your behavior and your being one, it's impossible for you to change.
So ultimately, do you distinguish between habituation and addiction?
Pardon?
Do you distinguish between...
No, addiction is a form of habituation.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's normal.
I'd like to say that we need to consider when we talk about addiction, the dual diagnosis and how prevalent depression is. And these cognitive behavior therapies are excellent for depression. So for those of you who know people who are depressed, finding someone who does cognitive therapy is really helpful.
More than 50% of individuals with problems of addiction have psychological and psychiatric problems. And dual diagnosis is very accurate.
Talking to the end of the microphone.
That brings up another thing. Any illness, if you have a stroke or whatever, it's going to cause depression. Addiction causes depression. Some people started using because they had depression. So that's one thing I like about the VA, is they are treating bipolar, PTSD, and other stuff. But 20 years ago, that wasn't done. They were separate. And you had to quit drinking, and then we'll see about your mental illness. So we've come a long way. That's a positive statement now, I think. In some treatment programs, everybody who walks in the door gets on antidepressants. And I think that's a good idea, because a lot of people will do better and not need treatment, because it's a brain disorder. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, I wanted to support the argument that at least for some people, their childhood raising has a huge consequence. I mean, my cousin, older cousin, his parents were divorced when he was little. He was forced to live with my crazy grandparents. He was a super bright guy. He died of acute alcoholism at 31 or 32. The other point, just again, this is sort of family history, is I think it's important to stress one addiction leads to another. Both my parents and one of my brothers died from the combination of alcoholism and smoking. I mean, the emphysema, lung cancer, but the two things, the smoking and drinking, just seem to absolutely go together like that. And I think that's a very common phenomenon of one addiction making you vulnerable to another.
The brain doesn't know the difference between heroin, sugar, alcohol. And that's what we caution people about. A lot of people will quit drinking, but they'll pick up gambling or sex or work or religion or something else and go nuts on that too. And that can cause problems. And that's why another thing that irritates me is some of these treatment programs allow people to continue to smoke. And smoking causes relapse. We know that for sure. So it's really crazy when I go, like Joseph House, they let them smoke down there. And then they wonder why people are relapsing. That's part of the reason. The brain needs to get off all that stuff to heal. So you're right, people switch from one addiction to another. That's a common thing that happens. I'm not shooting heroin anymore, but I'm down at the casino every day spending my paycheck. Because the brain doesn't know the difference. That's a good point.
I wanted to ask in regard to the opioid addiction crisis, there's a lot of blame placed on physicians prescribing too much pain medicine or over-prescribing. And as a registered nurse, I don't agree with that because I've experienced a lot of times when people really do need pain management. But I was wondering what both of you, what your thoughts are on why the opioid crisis has grown so much in recent years.
It's a very complex problem, Dave. The matter of becoming addicted as Bennett was saying, there are biological, there are sociological, and there are psychological components to individuals becoming addicted. And obviously, physicians have been very loose about prescribing opioids, and particularly with individuals that have a problem with respect to addiction. If they know about the history of it, they would avoid it. And opioids should be reserved for the absolute certainty of thing. For example, sickle cell patients require opioids. The pain that they have, it's incapable of being controlled with Tylenol and ordinary analgesics and so forth, and you need opioids, and if they become addicted, so what? But the point is, there is over-prescribing of opioids, and that's very unfortunate. And it needs to be, and the physicians have to be very careful about prescribing.
It's good marketing by the drug dealers. Heroin is really cheap, easily available. People are in pain. I'm not so sure that pain causes addiction, but people seek relief from their pain, and then their brain gets addicted. They don't plan on getting addicted. They're just trying to relieve their pain, which we all want to do. So that's one of the messages I give to people too. You didn't decide to become addicted. It just happened. You were using because you wanted to fit in with your friends and you want to get rid of your pain. That's normal. So in a way, you're a victim. Somewhat you're a victim. You weren't planning on getting addicted. You were just trying to do what we all want to do. And the heroin is so easily available and so cheap. $10. It's cheaper than a prescription or whatever. So that's part of it. The one thing, sort of good and bad, is we now have rich white girls from the suburbs getting addicted. And that sort of has helped us a little bit because everybody thought it was just people in the ghetto, losers and whatever. So that's something good about something bad, I think. And people are starting to learn more about it and get heads up on it.
Just, it's not just white rich girls, it's soccer moms and lawyers, et cetera, et cetera. But I wanted to agree with the man in the corner. Our speaker
That's
last
Bennett.
week talked about how homelessness can create a drug usage. So I kind of agree that sometimes your circumstances are very important. But I wanted to ask you three things. One, I had read a long time ago that like 98% of Americans, 98% of American Indians are genetically dispossessed, just, you know, they are, yeah, for being alcoholics. Is that something you agree with?
That's a biological predisposition.
Okay.
As I mentioned, addiction always has three components. Sometimes it's biological, which in the case of the Indians, they're very predisposed to become addicted to alcohol because of the effects of it.
Yeah.
And there's psychological, and there's always environmental, sociological.
Okay, well, my other two questions are, what are your statistics for 5 years after going through this recovery program versus the 12-step group or any other ways of?
No program is 100% effective. And as I mentioned, that AA and NA have been very effective for millions of people. But it's unfortunate that many individuals are not willing or not accepting the religious aspects of AA. And the other difference, the major difference in the cognitive behavioral and programs such as AA is the matter of helplessness. And with the 12-step program, say the individual is helpless or powerless with the problem. And what we say, the individual, when the drug is present, they're powerless, but they're capable of making the decisions when they are coming off of the drug.
Okay, so I was just wondering if there's any statistics of people that have gone through the programs after 5 years.
The amount of relapses that occur can be very significant, but the cognitive behavioral programs are taking a position of effectiveness in a significant percentage of the population. No program is 100% and successful with everyone.
Okay, my question is...
It's hard to know about success rates. It's hard to follow all that stuff. But only 10% of people who have addiction ever go to a treatment program. And my impression is about 10% of those make it. I don't know what you say, but it's pretty darn low. So we should be open to other ways to deal with things. And so many programs around here are not open to new ways to do it. Keep doing it the same old way, which hasn't worked. And so that's why we're kind of annoyed with the thing and trying to stir things up.
Yeah, again, I was just talking about statistics 5 years afterwards, but my other question is, do you have any statistics about people that have gastric bypasses where they cut out part of their intestines and then become alcoholics?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get it. What were we talking about? The section of the intestines?
Can't hear you, Dick.
Repeat your question.
Speak
into the end of the mic.
Do you have any statistics of people that have a gastric bypass operation where they take out part of their intestines and then they become alcoholics?
Yes, that can happen. It does occur. Yeah, I'm not clear about the statistics on it, but absolutely, yeah.
Oh. Okay, so my question deals with motivation, and you mentioned that it's possible to motivate people. I'm just wondering, especially if somebody's depressed, how can they be motivated?
Well, that's where antidepressants come into the picture, because they can be a benefit in motivating an individual. And the other thing is that yeah, I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, well, the antidepressants can be a major role. And drugs produce depression, and many individuals are using the drugs as an antidepressant, so it becomes a vicious cycle. So the medications can be significant in helping an individual overcome the desire for addictive use of a drug.
So are you saying that the only cause of lack of motivation is depression? So how else can people be motivated who are not normally motivated?
There's some people that will not be motivated. And the point is that hopefully if they can learn the consequences of their problem and if there's relief as possible, they can help. Some people cannot. There's no question about that.
Last question.
One of the things we do is a cost-benefit analysis. And we have, on the left side, they write down a list of what using does for them, what's good about it, why might you not want to quit, and the benefits. And then on the other side, the benefits of not using. You know, I might live long enough to see my daughter get married, etc. And so we help them look at both sides of it and say, now, which do you really want for your life? Because all the benefits of using are short-term. The benefits are long-term for not using. So that's one of the things that we do to help people with the motivation. Like I said, the things you want to do before you die, pointing out what your life was like before you started using. You know, before you started using, you know, what was your life like? And you know, you want to go back to, you know, dancing instead of sitting in a bar on Friday night or whatever. So, but motivation is something that we can work on. And a lot of programs have ignored that. If you're not motivated, you know, we don't want you.
Oh, just a real quick, because I'm over time. Being a chemist and been never associated, I'm being real quick. I believe that the companies, you know, legitimate companies and whatever, they know what can get you addicted, and they will put in their food or their drink something that will get you addicted. Well, cigarettes is also, they know exactly what to put in. Okay, the other thing is, the bad news is, folks, you're eating vegetables or, well, fructose is one of the worst, but anyway, the things are grown now with very dangerous insecticides, herbicides, and those are, you're eating those. Don't think you're not. You're eating those, and all those I'm just talking about body chemistry, which I know nothing about, but I can see, I can feel sometimes the effect of those poisons in my system, and they've got to get in your brain also. That's all I have to say.
There's some articles up here about brain chemistry and addiction and smart recovery, and you're welcome to take one if you want to.
I have to tell you, I am very sympathetic to any addict, because I will confess to you.
No, they're not addicts.
People
With addiction.
with addiction. I am a person with an addiction. I am addicted to chapstick.
Me too. But mine's Vaseline.
You can be Vaseline, but you will not convince me to go off. I've had to go off twice in my life. Once when I went through a car windshield and I had to have surgery on my face. And the second time when I had the plastic surgery to repair the damage to my face. And I had physical withdrawal both times. I am not motivated to go off chapstick, and I will be sympathetic to addicts for the rest of my life. Because, do you understand? I feel like I have an understanding of what it means to go off, and I don't want to go there again. I don't want to be there. And for me, it's a very serious thing. You have great questions. What a great group. You are just fabulous. And gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in today. You are wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Let's see. We have to get the food. We make sure we get a package from over there on the side and finish. Yeah, Peter's taking notes. I want to make sure that you know about. Yeah, right. Okay. I have meetings coming up. Next week is Moms in Action. The weekend after that is the Ohio Marijuana Law Explained. And then I have to tell you, this is my favorite. It's Hamilton County Clerk of Courts is going to be here. Ted Piravel will be here in 3 weeks.
Tell us about Moms in Action. What is it?
Moms in Action. Who knows about Moms in Action? Liz knows.
Guns. It's about guns.
Guns. And we have to know that that's a consideration in our community. And that's what we're here for, is to kind of find out what's going on in our community. Okay, foods, see our handouts. We have petitions if you want to hand your petitions in. Get training if you want to have training for petitions for getting redistricting done. Thank you for coming today. Thank you, folks. You are wonderful. I really appreciate you being here. And again, thank you guys, Mike and Dick.